We've lived in Neerim South for 10 years. We moved up from the city, and you couldn't get us back to the city for quids now. It's just absolutely beautiful up here. Often referred to as God's country. It's nearly green all the time, which makes it pretty hard for us to complain when we're in a drought. It's agricultural land, so it's dairy farms and lots of beautiful green paddocks. Neerim South is a tiny little village. All of the business exists in one tiny little CBD. We're on the road to Baw Baw, so Mount Baw Baw get a lot of traffic through the snow season, which is terrific. We sell basic cafe food. We're open 7 days a week from 8 till 5. One of the few places in the region that do brekkie all day, which makes us exceptionally popular on the weekends, of course. What we try and create is really a fun environment. We're kid-friendly. The atmosphere is really bright, it's colourful. We have thousands of little bits of pig paraphernalia all over the shop. So on the morning of Black Saturday, I actually started with a mate of mine at about 4 in the morning because we knew it was going to be stinking hot to put the footings in for the deck outside. So we started that at 4 in the morning, and about 2 o'clock in the afternoon the phone rang, and Kaz was at the shop working, and she said, "It's all hell's broken loose. I'm locking the door. I'm coming home." And within the space of about 45 minutes, the place went black, and the noise was totally indescribable. We came under ember attack, and if we were under ember attack, it was quite likely that the township of Neerim South, which was between us and the fires, was potentially under real threat. We woke up Sunday morning, eerie silence, really strong smell of burning in the air, and we sort of just kind of then realised, wonder if the shop's even standing. That was really when it kind of hit us. We got up there on that Sunday morning to find it was still there, so that was great. It was only then that we got a kind of really good idea of just how close it had come, because just behind the shop, as it had come up through Larbatouche and Jindavik, it was really pretty close and pretty scary. For us, there was really never a question that we would close the door and walk away. So we were just determined to put together every resource we possibly could to get through. The hardest part about it was just not knowing how long it would take. We thought within a matter of, a day or two, it'd kind of be life back to normal, business as usual. So that's kind of what we geared up for. We took the Sunday off, we didn't trade on the Sunday, and we were there first thing Monday morning ready to get going. It was really quite incredible. We had nearly 13 weeks of no trade, which was totally unexpected, especially when we weren't directly affected, as the term became. You were either directly affected or not directly affected. The first probably 8 weeks after the fires, we opened purely as a community service. We probably had about 20 locals, fireys, come in and out and get coffees during the day, and that was it. There's kind of that whole guilt thing about some people through the fires have gone through some pretty devastating times, so for people to start come out and actually doing things, there was kind of that hesitancy, like catching up with my girlfriend for lunch. How can I do that while there's people that don't have a house and people who've lost lives? So it was about us being able to send a message that you have to continue to support business, life goes on, but we participated in a lot of things that were actually assisting bushfire victims. All of the focus was obviously on the towns that had been directly affected, loss of life, loss of houses, and that kind of recovery, which is to be expected. So the not directly affected situation just kind of blended into the background, and so there was really not a lot in the media or available from agencies even for those people that weren't basically out on the street with nowhere to live. We have an awesome team here at Piglets. We've been together for quite a long time, and the worst outcome for us would have been to have actually lost them as a result of not being able to give them any shifts. So we made a commitment right at the start to them that we would keep them on, and we would find a way to get through. So over the space of the next month, the outpost had to serve 7,000 meals to keep all of the fireys, the chopper drivers, everybody fed. and they didn't have a workforce big enough to be able to do that, and I had a ready-made, ready-trained workforce that had nothing to do, and so they were able to take our guys on straight away and just fit in, work with their team to get their meals over the line, which was a great opportunity for both businesses to be able to survive a really, really tricky time. The other amazing thing was we actually went to Centrelink to get some assistance. They had a 14-week package of assisting people just with living expenses, and because we kept our staff on, we weren't eligible. We were told that if we'd let them go, we could live off the money we were paying them. We had business interruption insurance, and probably the biggest kick in the pants for us was the fact that we couldn't access our business interruption insurance because, according to the insurance company, there was no physical reason why we couldn't trade. I suppose it hit us hard, the fact that we thought we'd put all of the right things in place as business owners. We were responsible, we were paying our way, and to find out that we couldn't access those things was pretty devastating. It took us over 12 months to get back to 100% of our sales pre-bushfire. So for every single week that we traded in that 12 months, we actually went further backwards. And I don't think that's something that people really understand. They think, oh well, the business has started to come back, things must be improving. But until you actually get back to 100%, you're in fact still trading behind. Our point of difference, I suppose, is that we bake everything from scratch. We try and use as much local produce as we possibly can, and we actually try and get a lot of that produce from local farming families. So there's a real community connection between Piglets and the rest of the district. Because we commit to use local people, as soon as our business had a downturn, of course that affected our ability to be able to flow on our orders to our local suppliers as well. The communication between businesses, I think, is absolutely critical, and we've just recently started talking about getting a small business group together in Neerim South, because we actually don't have a traders group. So the communication was really great for those businesses hooked into the tourism network, but for a lot of the businesses along the street here, they're actually not hooked into that network. So I think something that we could do differently going forward would be to make sure that very locally and on a micro level, that the businesses across just this strip, for example, could really check in with each other, work out what collectively we could do, who was dealing with what problems, and how could those problems be solved faster and more effectively. As soon as there's a downturn, in order to get business in, everyone discounts everything. Then post-crisis, there's quite an enormous amount of government money invested in trying to get people back to the region. So all the operators have this enormous opportunity to go in things like Epicure and the Herald Sun and the Age and the travel sections, except because they've discounted their product so far, it's very difficult for them to come up with an attractive special. And it's something that the tourism community really needs to work on, so that they've got integrity in their product at the time when they can actually use this money that's invested into bringing people back to the region. So what we do is encourage operators to team up together. So for example, we teamed up with a couple of the local B&Bs to offer a breakfast package, so to increase the value of the experience to get people here rather than actually discount the product. So it's really about cooperative marketing, value adding, being able to provide some really attractive specials to drive people back to the region. We went as a region to less than 25% of our normal weekly sales right across 100 businesses, so that's absolutely significant. I think the wider tourism industry needs to understand that it's just not easy for people in that moment to dip into their pockets, but on the other hand, if businesses had a little crisis fund so that they can get the absolute most out of those opportunities post-crisis, I think would have an enormous impact on getting people back on their feet faster and feeling more confident and hopeful about what the future offers. That commitment we made to keep our team together made us absolutely focus on solutions. There was just no option that we would just sit down and give up. So therefore, we were determined every day to come up with whatever we possibly could to keep going for another day and another day. And I think that had a significant impact on our ability to stay positive, keep looking to the future with hope, and know that we were actually going to come out all right on the other side, however long it took. From a personal point of view, in hindsight, our biggest learning was the fact that we never want to be there at the time if something like this happens again. So having made that decision, from a business perspective, the things that we put in place afterwards, we would in future put in place beforehand. I would encourage any tourism business and tourism community to really look at real options to keep the team going, whether it's sharing people across rosters, whether it's finding other creative things to do with them during that crisis period of time, because you need to be ready when the doors open and the Open for Business campaign begins. You've got to be ready to be able to give those people a great time and encourage them to return.